Today, we're here to talk about SEO that works, and it's all about proven methods. We've been doing this for 13, 14 years. And of course, before that, my business partner and I, we've been doing marketing for, gosh, I'm not going to share because it's going to share how old I am. But it is, things have evolved and things have changed. But there are some things that are tried and true. And we're going to talk about that today. A couple of things just really quickly before we get started. For those of you, as I'm taking a look at everyone that is here live, and I'm just pulling up the actual list as I'm going through, I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to keep going. We've got, I think we had just nearly little under 100 that are RSVP for today, excuse me. And in terms of this, as I'm looking at this, many of you I know directly, some of you we haven't had the opportunity to meet. And if this is your first time, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us today. We're going to make this as action-packed, as actionable. And by the way, good news is I'm going to talk about this here in the agenda in just a few moments. We have a big goodie and gift for you. And I will say a big thanks to Zoe and Hadi on our team. That's really helped to not just make today's session possible, but in terms of this reference guide, the three of us have worked really closely. We've got an 18-page checklist guide that's actionable. That's literally you can take to your team and rock and roll with this. But really quickly, for those of you that don't know us well, we are a marketing agency. We only work with security companies, including guard companies, integrators, dealers. We work with the vendors in our space. We are proud members of many of our industry's biggest associations. And what I will say here is it is all about the current level of success. Like, we don't work with direct competitors, and we're analyzing data from multiple groups throughout different parts of the country. So that the whole point here is it's all about that current level of success. But enough about us. In terms of me, just really quickly, I am honored to speak at many of our industry's biggest events. We also, my business partner and I have been in, gosh, I can't believe in January, it's going to be 15 years already. Marketing Mad Men, which is an SDM magazine, is a monthly column that we have. But, I've been very blessed to speak at many of the industry's biggest events, and I'm going to talk about this in just a moment. I look forward to seeing many of you here in a couple of weeks. I can't believe it's only a couple of weeks away at ISC East. If any of us, whether you're watching this live or on demand, if we've not connected on LinkedIn, let's keep this conversation going. And with that said, one last quick thing is, speaking of ISC East, we would love for you to come by our booth 246. If you come see me, your first cocktail of choice is on me at one of the at any of the events at ISC East. I'm also going to be, I'm honored and humbled to be sharing the stage with many of my good friends. We're going to be talking about the difference between, or not the difference, we'll be talking about the AVS-01 standard, and specifically how AVS-01 is really helping to shift the way that we as an organization, the private security industry, is on a standardized basis communicating with that of public safety. And I'm really honored once again to be sharing the stage with my good friends there, many of these from PPVAR. And then also we're going to kick things off, I believe, on Tuesday. So it'll be on Thursday. On Tuesday afternoon, as we all know, like, video monitoring as a category is really, when I say it's an emerging, it's one of it's one of the fastest growing aspects of our industry, especially in the commercial side in terms of layering services. We're going to be talking about remote guarding and the future of navigating the future of that of video monitoring as an overall category. Really excited for this as well. So please stop by our booth. If you're going to be there and part of the education, please, I would love for you to come by both of the sessions on Tuesday as well as Thursday afternoon. So in terms of today's topic, all right, so we're going to start off with understanding the impact of SEO for that of your security business. And we'll talk about how to master keyword research, because remember, it's all about beginning or starting, you've got to start with that end in mind and make sure that we understand that of the significance and the importance of proper keyword research. We'll talk about some of the effective on-page as well as off-page SEO techniques, and specifically, not just in theory, but how to physically implement them. We'll talk about how to leverage local SEO, because many of us here are going to be have like a finite service area, maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 plus miles. Perhaps it's the entire state or a few states. And for those of us that are on a nationwide basis, obviously that's going to be our service area. We'll be talking about how we measure SEO success and avoid some of the common pitfalls. And then I talked about that, we've got, if time permits, and I'm just kidding, no, we will make sure time permits. We have a 18-page SEO guide / checklist. Keep in mind, we're only going to be going for another 45, 50 minutes. The things we're talking about today, this could be an 8-hour session. And this guide and checklist is going to be your step-by-step approach to really help expand about the things that we're talking about today. So once again, and I'm going to grab my phone here as well. If in terms of being interactive, if each of you can help me to scan this QR code, and I'll do the same. So Slido, once again, if you're on your phone, it may be a little more difficult for you to do this. You'll want to join at slido.com, and then you'll use the code 14122539 to be able to answer this question. So we've got just 3 quick questions. And I appreciate, let me actually address this one as well. So the question is, what's your current level of involvement with SEO for your security business? Are you a beginner, an intermediate, you're not involved, or are you advanced? So if you can just quickly answer this question. And as we're answering this question and these subsequent 2 questions, remember, it's going to be really helpful for each of us to answer this honestly, because it's not just about, like, I'd like for you to see as to how you compare versus that of your peers throughout the country and things in that regard. So we'll give this just another 5 seconds or so, and we'll go on to the next. But yeah, I see here, the lion's share here, 2/3 of us are beginner, and then we're saying about 1/4 of us are intermediate. So great. In terms of the next question, what's your biggest challenge facing you regarding SEO? And keep in mind, this is the biggest. So in terms of this, there probably could be an answer that says all the above, but we purposely wanted to have this in terms of what's your biggest. So it's a lack of time. Is it measuring results? Is it a limited expertise, budget constraints, or is it keeping up with the changes? All these things are really, really important. And if we can, once again, we'll give this another 5-10 seconds. I appreciate everyone sharing their thoughts here. And I'll address this one as well. We'll give this just another 5 seconds or so. And 3, 2, and I guess before we move on, I'm seeing here half are going to be lack of time, and then the rest is a balance between limited expertise, budget constraints, and measurement results. I will say this: all of these are critically important things to keep up with, but I appreciate that. So let's move on just to the final one, and I really appreciate each of you that are watching this live for engaging, interacting with us. This is really, really helpful. Once again, for those of us that are watching this live as well as on demand. So the last question is, so which SEO topic are you most interested in learning about today? And this is actually going to be really, really helpful so that we can make sure that we put a little extra emphasis on this. Is it going to be local SEO? Is it about the KPIs, right? How we measure success? Does it have to do with keyword research? Is it on page or is it off page SEO? So I appreciate everyone engaging with us. We'll give this another 5-10 seconds. And give this just another moment or so. Really appreciate everyone with their feedback, maybe another 5 seconds. So it seems like, once again, it's a mixed bag here, but it's a combination of local SEO, on page, measuring success, and off page. I will say this, whereas I would say once again, if we didn't specify one, I would say all of these are going to be incredibly important. So really, really appreciate everyone's feedback. So let's jump into the actual curriculum. So we're going to start off with that of understanding the impact of SEO for that of your security business. And keep in mind, we're not going to be talking about a ton of stats and things in this regard, because we want to get into information that's going to be really super helpful for us. So like in terms of the stats, 9 out of 10 consumers use search engines to find local businesses. And let's think about that. If you take into consideration 5-10 years ago, that number was nowhere near where it is today. And I will say this, if you are not present, if you're not visible in Google, and I realize there's a lot of changes that are happening in the search engine world, with Bing, with AI, all these other things. But keep in mind today, we're the end of 2024, getting into 2025, Google still owns the lion's share of the search traffic. And one of the shifts that's happened over these last several years is Google hasn't just been for searching for things that you can buy online, but Google has now more of the resource, and it's taken over. And I know we all know this, so I don't mean to be so one-on-one and to harp on this so much, but it's taken over that of the local yellow pages and things in that regard. And this number here clearly communicates that. Now, one of the challenges is that only 1 in 2 small businesses actually have an SEO strategy in place. Now, by the way, these facts and figures are not exclusive to here in the industry. as much as I hate to admit to this, because I'm in the security industry, like our group's in the security industry as well, this number here, I would venture to say, is going to be less than 50%. And I say this because as an industry, we are more focused on that of the sales versus that of marketing. And I'll tell you what, I'm biased, but marketing is really, 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 really important. So keep in mind where I'm going with this is in terms of the opportunity, because look, we all have direct competitors. Well, I would say 99.9% of us have, excuse me, direct competitors. And what happens is knowing that SEO is a really important piece of the puzzle, it can not only help to level the playing field, but knowing that in our industry, realistically, less than half of other security companies have, and I'm going to add a word here, have an effective SEO strategy in place. What this means is if each and every single one of us takes action and really puts our best foot forward and has an effective strategy in place, we can easily propel ourselves and put ourselves in a position to be able to become more visible to that of our prospects at the exact moment that they're looking for us. They may not necessarily know us by name. And that's once again within the areas that they're based, which happens to be within our direct service area. So, in terms of why it matters, right? Keep in mind, there is a perception by that of users on Google that if Google is ranking us at the top and possibly in multiple pages, that means that we're very, very credible. And it's something that can really help to build trust with that of potential customers. It's also really cost effective because keep in mind, I'm going to show you here in just a moment, the Google search engine results page and how it's changed over the years. Keep in mind for SEO specifically, when someone in the map section or in the organic results identifies you and clicks to learn more, there is no direct cost for that, unlike that of the ad section, which are going to be above that. So it's more affordable than that of the traditional Google or that of the search digital advertising. It's also an investment. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to get too deep into this now because we're going to talk about this over these next few minutes. But having an effective, proper SEO strategy in place can really help with that of the long-term results. And I'll just be really quick about this. Now, if you are doing things that you shouldn't be doing in terms of, how do I say this, like doing the black hat or things that you shouldn't be doing, well, keep in mind that would potentially in a short-term basis catapult you to the top or catapult you to page one, but it's going to be temporary because keep in mind, Google's algorithm continually updates. But I would say most of us, if not, you know what, everyone that's here watching this, I know without question, we're all doing things the right way to the best of our ability. Where I'm going with this is when we do things the right way, remember, methodical and steady marketing wins the race. When we do things the right way, it is sustainable and it's sustainable traffic with a sustainable lead generation that will help us not just in the short term, but in the mid and the long term as well. In terms of some of the common challenges that we see, because keep in mind, once again, we're speaking with security companies every single day. As we talked about, and in one of the questions that we just asked a few minutes ago, we were sharing some of these things. One of the challenges is we have time constraints. It's like, I keep asking, slow down, slow down. That figurative like the clock out there, slow down, but it doesn't listen to me. I'm sure I'm in good company. We've got time constraints, right? We're too busy. Like we don't have time to focus on this. And also, by the way, it's not our area of expertise, right? It's important for us to focus on what we do best and what matters most. And even though I'm biased and SEO is a really important piece of the marketing puzzle, that's not necessarily something that all of us should be spending a lot of our time. And keep in mind, it is not only on an ongoing, it's not only evolving constantly. I talked about the fact that algorithm, that's the recipe in terms of how results are displayed. It's constantly updating, but it's incredibly complex. The other thing is like in terms of resources, like our resources are limited. And this could be, once again, time, this could be dollars, as well as members of our team or third parties that we're working with and things in that regard. Let's talk just for a moment here. I know this is a little hard to see, but this is the top of the Google results page, and then this is what's below it. And I know we're not talking about this today. In an upcoming masterclass, we will talk about the paid section, which is here. This is now, keep in mind, in our industry, in the security industry, meaning like guard companies, dealers, integrators, we not only have the sponsored pay-per-click Google ads, meaning when someone clicks on you here, you're paying a cost per click, but we also have what's referred to as the Google Guaranteed / the Google Local LSAs, or the local service ads. And this is on a pay-per-lead basis. If, by the way, if this is the first time that any of you are hearing about this and you'd like to learn more about this, I know we're not talking about this today, please send a note to me directly via LinkedIn, or maybe perhaps either Zoe or Isabella, you can put a chat with my email address. And if anybody just has any questions about LSAs or Google Ads PPC, no obligation discussion on a one-on-one basis. We can talk about that directly. So if you wouldn't mind just putting my email address, just if anybody wants to send an email up, awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Zoe. In terms of, once again, what we're speaking about today, in terms of the SEO, obviously you've all read this already, but so when someone does a search, in this particular case, it's Alarm Companies Los Angeles. We've got the paid section. We've got the maps. You have PAA, which is people also ask. And then we have the organic results. When we take into consideration the maps as well as the organic, about 2/3, just over 7 out of 10, or about 2/3, 3/4, pardon me, of the actual users are clicking on these organic results. And I'll tell you what, don't get me wrong, it is important. Ideally, over time, you are in fact going to be on that. You want to, in fact, be on that of both the paid. You want to be on the page multiple times, but just once again, keep in mind, the organic section is really, really important. And I know things will continually evolve in terms of the way that the pages are resulting, but in terms of today, keep all these things, keep all these things in mind. So in terms of, let's talk about keyword research. And I know no one clicked on this because this isn't your most important thing, but I will say you always have to begin with the end in mind. And it is important to make sure that you're mastering this. In terms of what keyword research is it's a process that identifies the exact words and phrases that your target audience is using within search engines. Like, in other words, keep in mind, right? Keep in mind, like, get into the mindset of what users are, how do I say this? Like, get into the mindset of what user is thinking. And it may not necessarily be how you refer to yourself. And this is why it's important in keyword research to identify all of these things that you're doing, and making sure that you're identifying those words and phrases. What it's going to do is it's going to help to lay the foundation for all of the SEO efforts. Remember, begin with the end in mind. Keep in mind, in terms of speaking of your target audience, and by the way, this goes beyond that of Google, beyond that of like keyword research, but it's important to really understand, like, who are your ideal clients, understand what their needs and what their pain points are. And I say this because, remember, when it comes to that of SEO, not only do we want to make sure that we're showing up for the keywords in the right places as high up on page one as possible, but what we also want to do is when someone lands on our page, we want to make sure that we're speaking to them. Remember, we've got the attention span now that's less than that of the goldfish. And it's so important to make sure that, like, what we are providing, we want to make sure that we're providing the information as quickly as possible to that of the users in terms of on their terms. Because remember, let's just say that I happen to be a commercial end user. Let's just talk about two commercial end users. Let's say you've got a healthcare end user versus that of, let's just say, like a logistics or warehouse end user. Like, the needs of these users are very, very different. Like, we need to be not only are the solutions different, but also the actual, like, their challenges are different. So we need to make sure that we're speaking to them. And that's why developing the buyer personas are going to be really important, because that's going to determine what are the actual words and phrases that we want to be showing up for and things in that regard. In terms of some of the tools, and by the way, we will have a replay that we'll send to everyone here. You may want to take, as you're taking your notes, you may want to take a screenshot of this. These are some popular tools that you can utilize that will help you with your keyword research. I will add to this list google.com. So when you go to Google and you start typing, like, let's just say security company, you're going to notice that Google's going to automatically start suggesting other phrases. It's going to try and read your mind or direct you in a specific direction or what have you. But like Google Keyword Planner, with your Google Keyword Planner, this is part of the Google Ads platform. You can do keyword research by uploading your website or uploading some of your competitors' website. You can add what's referred to as a few seed keywords, or in other words, a few starter keywords. It will expand those In terms of like Ahrefs, SEMrush, and Ubersuggest, these are all freemium, meaning I believe, I don't recall off the top of my head if SEMrush has a free version. I believe they do, but they have also, various, with Ahrefs and Ubersuggest, they have free versions that are very limited, allow just a couple of keyword research. And then there's low cost opportunities for you to really dig in deep, to be able to identify. And keep in mind, in terms of the keywords, there's 4 different keyword types, right? There's the informational and navigational. Like an informational keyword would be something like, access control, or what is access control? You're wanting to learn more about the subject. Whereas navigational will be, let's just say, XYZ security company phone number, right? That's someone that knows the company that they're looking for, and they're looking for something specific from them. Like, what's their customer service number? What is their customer service email? What's their sales number? Things in that regard. Whereas what we want to focus on is going to be the intent of commercial and transactional. So this is going to be someone that's like a, commercial security company near me, or perhaps, buy, like, what is the best security system in Los Angeles, California? I'm making this up and not being, in terms of that. So these are going to be things that are going to be more of the more from in terms of the sales funnel. These are going to be lower in the sales funnel, and individuals that are actively looking for you. They may not necessarily know you by name. In terms of, to keep in mind, I just used an example of this. So you may or may not heard of the phrase long-term or long-tail keyword. In terms of a long-tail keyword, these are going to be phrases that are going to be a little longer in length. So like, for example, I use the phrase access control. So it's like, let's just say access control company in Los Angeles, California. That is going to be more of a long tail. It's more specific. There's going to be lower volume. There will be a lot less search traffic for it, but there's a lot less competitors, which means it'll be easier for you to show up in the results for that. Number one. Number two is these are going to attract more qualified leads, because remember, like, we're not going to do this right now for time's sake, but if you were to do a search for access control, some of the first few organic results are going to be like thought leadership blogs on what is access control. Whereas if we did that search for access control company in Los Angeles, California, this is going to show you companies that would be able to help with access control within Los Angeles. And keep in mind, if you get into the mindset of who's searching for that, that's exactly who you're looking for, if presuming this is one of the services that you provide. I won't spend too much time on this, but in addition, when you're doing your keyword research, you can also, as part of your keyword research, you can analyze that of your competitors. The reason why it's important is because let's just say that you've got a competitor that's showing up higher in the results versus yourself. You can make sure that you're able to, how do I say it? Like, you can make sure that you're identifying what are the keywords and phrases that they are searching for, if that makes sense. And keep in mind, with some of the words that you're showing up for, they will be able to provide a gap in terms of some opportunities for keywords that may have the right intent, but there's not a lot of competition, and you're not showing up for those words. So if you have some of those words in the right places on your site and incorporate them into your blogs and on your Google Business Profile, etc., that'll help you to be able to show up for even more words and phrases. Here's an example. You may want to take a quick snapshot of this, of actual security company keywords themselves that have more of that commercial or that of the transactional intent. So I will not reference who said this out of respect for this individual, but one of our good colleagues here, and I absolutely agree with you. Thank you. Answer the Public is another great resource. So I'm just going to type this to everyone so that you can, let's see here. Okay, so thank you very much for sending that to us, and so that we wanted to share that with the rest of your colleagues as well. So in terms of implementing effective on and off page techniques, in terms of some of the on-page SEO basics, and we're not going to get super technical here, but keep in mind, these are the various tags or meta tags, so to speak, that are really, really important in terms of some of the on-page SEO basics. So your title tag, this is going to be, if not the one of the most important on-page elements. This is the actual title. So this is a signal to Google in terms of what is this specific page about. Obviously, the homepage is what's going to be most important, but keep in mind for all of your inner pages, we want to make sure that we have pages that are specifically geared towards each of the services that you provide, because we want to maximize the keyword searches that we're showing up for in the results, if that makes sense. In terms of your meta description, so this is in fact like a description of the page. It doesn't have direct SEO implications, but when you're on Google, I'm not going to go back to the page right now, but when you're on a Google search engine results page, you usually have a header, and that's going to be involved with your title tag and then the description below it. If you have a meta description, that'll include your meta description. Keep in mind, usually you'll have the words bolded that are the keywords that you've searched for. You'll want to make sure that you're utilizing salesy type copy, and I shouldn't say salesy, but things that have call to actions. You're describing what your page is all about, and you're giving a reason for that of the user to be able to click through and go to your site. In terms of the header tag, so these are going to be commonly referred to as like H1, H2, H3. The H1, you're only supposed to have one per page. That's what's going to be most important. With H2s, you can have multiple. H3s, you can have multiple. Keep in mind, the most important keyword or phrase should be not only in your title tag, but within your H1 tag. And then you want to have complementary keywords or keywords that are describing things, or that are geared towards that of the main keyword and phrase. Keep in mind, even like with your URL structure. So like what I mean by this is like, xyzsecurity.com / let's just say, home security systems, home dash security dash systems dash Los dash Angeles dash CA as an example. That's what I mean by a URL structure. We want to be really methodical about that, because that's one of the other factors. And then from the image, from the image itself perspective, we want to make sure that we have what's referred to as a alt text, meaning what we're doing is we have text that is describing what that image is all about. That not only will help you from the traditional organic results, but that also will help you if you're doing a search for, let's say, and you click on Google in the images section, that will help you to show up within that area as well. In terms of SEO-friendly content and how to help craft it, keep in mind, we want to make sure that we are really focused on that like methodical and steady marketing wins the race. And what I mean by that is we want to make sure that we have, quality, we want to make sure that we have quality content. Keep in mind, we're not creating content only for that of Google. We're also creating it for that of the users as well, because one of the ranking factors is dwell time. We're going to talk about that here in just a moment. We want to make sure that we're incorporating the keywords naturally. So we're not just stuffing, as we do that research, we're not just stuffing, all of these particular keywords and things in that regard, if that makes sense, but we're making sure that it's natural so that we've got users that are flowing through that. In terms of the content types, we want to make sure that we've got, blog posts, we've got service pages and FAQs. And we want to make sure that these are all thought leadership or educational articles that are really helping to position us well, and that are helping to educate the users so that they know, like, and trust us, and they come more pre-positioned to buy and things in that regard. One of the things that's important, if for those of you that are on your computer right now, you'll be able on your phone to be able to take a look at, I would, with this, and we'll show you an example of a report here in just a moment. And this is where your site speed matters. Like, keep in mind, it's important to make sure that we've got mobile optimization. And with that said, a lion's share, and one of my good friends, I think maybe a few sessions ago, had shared that for her, and she's got a lot of traffic to her website. Like, I think it was either 3/4 or 4/5 of her traffic is coming from actual mobile devices. We want to make sure that we have fast loading times and best and a responsive design. So I'm going to skip to this next. Here's an example of utilizing the Google Page Speed Insight. Keep in mind, it's able to tell you data in terms of what's your performance, what's your accessibility, what's your best practices, and what are your SEO scores and things in this regard. So, once again, with this, if you want to just take a quick picture of this and then you can take a look at this afterwards, or you can do a search for Google Page Insights. You can do this for each of your sites, and it'll give you a lot of data in terms of where there's room for opportunity and growth and things in that regard. So some of the ways really quickly just to increase that of page speeds is you want to make sure that you're enabling compression. And I'm going to skip to this bottom one here. And optimizing images, like keep in mind, there are third-party apps and tools that will optimize and reduce or compress the file size of each of the images, or you can do them manually. You want to make sure, and not to get too technical here, but like in terms of the code of your websites, you want to make sure that you're minimizing the actual code so there's less code for the actual browsers to go through in order to be able to display that of your website. You want to reduce redirects. And what I mean by redirect is you go to xyz.com/X, I'm just making this up, and then it redirects to /Y. Like you want to minimize that. Some of these are done for marketing. Some of these are done for other purposes, things in that regard. You want to make sure that you're removing render blocking JavaScript. You want to make sure that you're leveraging that of the browser caching. You want to improve the server response time and utilize that of a content distribution network. One of the other things that's also really important is make sure that the hosting that you have really is conducive to that of quick. You want to make sure that your hosting is not dragging you down as well. In terms of some on-site optimization best practices, this is where we want to make sure that, and some of these things are like, it goes without saying, but you would be very, very surprised. Because keep in mind, we are reviewing through dozens of security websites per day, and you would just be surprised. You want to make sure that we've got a page for each and every single one of your services. And by the way, within the top navigation, you want to make it easy because, perhaps you may have 20, 30, 40, 50 plus pages. You don't want it. You want to make sure that it's easy for the user to find what they're looking for. And in our particular case for SEO, you want to make it easy so that Google is indexing all of these pages. And it's easy for them to index so that users can go directly to the page of your site that they're looking for. For those of us that are on the dealer integrator or the guard side, we want to make sure that we have pages that are specifically geared around major cities, the major cities that we serve. We want to make sure that we've got quality content that's, not just, we don't want to just have pages for each of the services. We want to make sure that we have high quality content that's well optimized on every single page. And what we mean by that is, remember, we talked about like the title tag, the H1s, the H2s. We want to make sure that we're sharing information that makes it crystal clear about not just what we do, but how our process is unique and different, how we're different. Perhaps, maybe we're a national, maybe we are competing with the nationals. Like what's our value proposition? How are we unique? All of those things are really, really important. We want to make sure that we're leveraging multimedia. And when we talk about improving on-page time, the reason why this is important is, as we have, like, one of the factors with Google is, does someone come to our website and leave? The longer they stay, that's a signal to Google that basically states this information is high caliber content, it's high quality. In fact, the user that came from Google, that went to the site, maybe consumed a few pages of content, spent a few minutes or several minutes, filled out a form. Those are all really important and really good ranking factors, because remember, from Google's perspective, Google wants for its users to find its results really helpful and for them to come back again and again and again. So keep in mind, we also want to make sure, as we talked about before, that the primary keywords are properly positioned within that of the title and the H1. And we want to make sure that we've got relevant keywords within the H2s and H3s. We talked about this briefly, but that meta description itself, and especially this is important within Google search engine results, that helps to like sell or to engage that user to want to click through and learn more. NAP, we talked about this this past month, which is the name, address, phone number. We want to make sure that it is in the footer with what's referred to as a schema markup. And that needs to be consistent with your Google business profile, like meaning your name, address, and phone number cannot be different. It needs to be exactly the same, as well as that of all the other local listings. So all these things go together, and this is part of Google's algorithm once again. So in terms of the blog and creating content, we want to make sure that we are posting consistently. We want to make sure these are educational thought leadership articles that are including that of some of the relevant keywords that we want to be showing up for, and being very useful. Remember that dwell time, like Google knows, like if someone goes to your blog and reads the article for 5 seconds, there's no way someone's going to be able to read that entire blog article. But if they see that they're going below and going through consuming that entire blog and spending more time on that. These are really important factors because Google wants to reward us for being a useful resource for that of its users, if that makes sense. In terms of some of the off-page strategies, we want to make sure that we are focused on backlink building is really, really important because keep in mind, it's like, for example, and I won't, let's just see here. Let's see. So let's say Michelle is an example, because Michelle to everyone. So I can use Michelle's name. So like Michelle, if I were to say, you know what, we can help you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're great and all these other good things, versus Michelle saying, you know what, you got to be reaching out to SD Marketing and Dave's group because they really, know their stuff and they can help you with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clearly, like Michelle's recommendation would be a lot more effective than me speaking about myself. And in Google, the same thing holds true, and things have evolved over the years, don't get me wrong, but having quality links, backlinks, I should say, from reputable websites, it's still really important because this is one of the signals, one of the factors. Making sure that, on social media, we want to drive traffic from our social media platforms directly to us. All those things are really, really important. We want to make sure that like within the online directory, so like the Yellow Pages of the world, the various directories, we want to make sure that we have that consistent NAP or that name, address, phone number, and we have links that are coming directly to us. This is also where, like let's say in our industry as an example, we want to make sure that we have, how do I say this? Like, let's say that like the ESAs or the SEAs of the world or our local state chapters. We want to make sure that we have links that are coming from their websites because those are going to be nice authoritative websites coming to us. And these are some part of the factors, things in that regard. In terms of content promotion, we want to make sure that we're not only creating content but we're also promoting it and we're utilizing those social channels. So this is where like on a Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X, things in this regard, this is where we create social content, have that link back directly to our site. These are some of those key ranking factors, things in that regard. Also in industry forums, on like, let's just say even Facebook groups, things in this regard. We want to make sure that we're linking back to our sites, things in this regard. And we want to make sure that we're guest posting on that of third-party credible article sites and having links that are giving us the proper authorship for the things that we're doing, things in that regard. In terms of some of the current ranking factors, so like CTR, which stands for click-through rate, is key. So like, for example, when, sometimes like, for example, and we're talking about the organic areas here, not necessarily the first or second or third result doesn't get all the traffic, meaning we want to make sure, that's why it's important to make sure we have the proper title tag and that meta description. And as we continue to increase our click-through rate, those are signals, and these are factors that really help signal to Google that, wait a minute, we need to continue increasing them within the results because our users are finding their content very useful. We want to make sure, as we talked about a little earlier in terms of the scroll rate and the dwell time, it's really, really important. Like, because remember, as I talked about, like if someone does not scroll down at all, that's not a good factor. Whereas users that are scrolling down on multiple pages of the site, these are once again factors that are helping us long-term to continue to grow and increase our rankings over time in a sustainable basis. Bounce rate basically stands for a user comes to our site, they do not engage with the content, either they close the window or they hit the back button. That's not a good thing. It is something to watch very closely in your Google Analytics, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. You want to make sure that you're analyzing this. This is where you want to make sure the bounce rate is as low as possible. Usually you want to have things high, but in the bounce rate perspective, you want to have it as low as possible. And I'll tell you what, branding is huge. It's really, really important. And Google loves brands. And let me explain what I mean by that. As we build our brand, one of the factors is when you go into Google and someone does a search for your business name. And over time, as you continue to build your brand, perhaps you're doing, let's say, traditional media, perhaps television, radio, billboards, community events, networking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As your brand continues to build and grow, that is a big factor, a big signal to Google that you're a credible third-party brand. Because look, within reason, anyone can create a website and state, hey, I do security in this particular area. But as you continue to build your brand, that's one of those big signals and big factors. So continue to invest in building your brand. By the way, outside of SEO, these things really are helpful because you have individuals that are coming more pre-positioned to buy and things in this regard. The other thing to keep in mind is the number of citations, reviews, and high quality backlinks. These are all really, really important. Keep in mind with citations, the reason why it's important is because it's showing a consistent NAP with the reviews. Keep in mind keywords within the reviews, especially within Google, helps to tell Google these are the things that you're known for, the things that you do. And also, obviously, the ranking signals, all those things are important. And we just talked about that of quality backlinks. In terms of our formula for, as we close out 2024 and beyond, we want to make sure we're setting up that of a great website for all of the pages, with pages for all the services that we provide within all of the cities or the areas that we serve. We want to make sure that we are including in the actual title tags and the H1s. We want to make sure that we have the primary keyword for that service, as well as like the geo modifier. So like, for example, I'm here in the Los Angeles area. Los Angeles would be amongst the most important area or section for me. So we want to make sure that that we're including that within the proper tags themselves. We want to make sure that we are, like in terms of the content, we want to make sure that it's unique for every single page, and it's very well written, and it's got a really high caliber quality content, not just for Google, but for that of the users. We want to make sure that we are continually, like on an ongoing basis, we're generating online reviews across the entire internet, not just on Google. We want to make sure that we're building citations and consistency for the blog, and I talked about this, but not just on your actual blog on the website, but within your Google Business Profile. You want to make sure that you're publishing content, high quality content, very consistently on an ongoing basis. Build out of the links in the authority, and then even leverage page search. Because what happens is when you leverage page search, when you take a look at the keyword report, it'll actually give you other keywords and phrases that are actually searched. And these are some of the keywords and phrases that you want to start incorporating onto your website so you can get more and more and more and more keywords and phrases that you're showing up for in the results. And then as you're taking a look at, as we take a look at the KPIs in just a sec, you'll be able to say, okay, that's my plan. These are some of the keywords that I'm not showing up in the top couple of pages. We need to start putting more emphasis around these so that we can start showing up at the top of the results for those. So let's talk about how we leverage, and I'm going to be really quick about this because we talked about this in great detail this past month. But in terms of what is local SEO, it's basically optimizing that of our online presence to attract local customers. And the reason why it matters is because just under half of all Google searches are seeking local information. In terms of a couple of the steps really quickly, in terms of like optimizing your Google Business Profile, we want to make sure that we're claiming and verifying our listing. We want to make sure we're optimizing the listing. In other words, all of the sections within your Google Business Profile, you want to make sure that you're completing all of those. By the way, with photos, try your best not to use stock ones, but use real ones. And I know it's hard to see me, but like all of us have these devices here. And the cameras these days are pretty darn good. So, you can utilize that to be able to create cameras, or you can hire a local group to help you to do photography in your area. And by the way, you can even do things in terms of some of your customers, like before and afters, do selfies with them, things in that regard, as well as members of your team, your vehicles, your building, etc., so on and so forth. With that of the local citations and directory, like consistency is really, really important. If you've got, once again, I know we talked about this briefly, but if you've got like multiple variations to your name, that's confusing to Google, and it's not sure as to which one is the proper one, and that's going to negatively impact that of your results for your Google Business Profile, as well as that of your main website as well. Some of the proper or popular directories, I should say, are going to be Yelp, Yellow Pages, and there's also industry-specific directories as well. I talked a little bit about them earlier in terms of some of the associations, things in that regard. It is so critically important to make sure that you have a plan in place to be able to drive customer reviews and ratings, because what it does is it helps to build trust and it improves that of your local rankings. Keep in mind, you want to make sure with every single customer, you are asking for a review while you're physically present with them. Because once you leave, life gets in the way. And it's like, sometimes it's just not going to happen. You want to make sure also, regardless as to whether it's a positive review or a constructive review, you want to make sure that you're responding in a very timely fashion to every single individual. And I will tell you what, in some cases, some of the negative or constructive reviews, as you engage with these individuals, you're going to put yourself in a position to be able to turn that negative review into a positive one and put yourself in a much better position. But you've got to engage with them. Do not just let them sit on their own. You want to make sure, like in terms of content creation, make it hyper local, like specific to your area. Things that are important to some of the some of your customers and to your potential customers that are specific in your area. Perhaps maybe you have some community involvement in things in that regard. You want to make sure, like if you're doing any things with the local chambers, local community-based events, talk about these things. Talk about the fact that you're from the community for the community, and make things hyper local, things that would be important to them, not just necessarily things that would be important to anyone throughout the entire country. In terms of measuring success, some of the KPIs is measuring that of what your organic traffic is. And keep in mind, we're going to talk about some of the actual tools to measure this in just a moment. You want to make sure that you're, in terms of feeding that of the organic traffic, are your keyword rankings, are they staying static? Are they going down? Meaning you're getting pushed further away. Are the rankings going up? Are you getting closer to page one? Are you getting higher on page one? What are your conversion rates? Because keep in mind, this is one of the KPIs or the key performance indicators that Google is able to identify as well. Because remember, that's one of the big signals. We talked about bounce rate, and then also, like, once again, the backlinks. These are all things that you can track within that of some of the tools that I've just shared and some of the tools we're going to be talking about here in just a moment. So, like, for example, Google Analytics. So Google Analytics and Google Search Console, these are both free tools that you can add to your website. And I'm going to share with you really quickly what's the difference between the two. So, like, for example, with Google Analytics, this will get you all the information by the numbers in terms of how much traffic are you getting to your website? Where are they coming from? What is their flow? Meaning, do they come to one page? Do they come to multiple pages? What is their behavior? Meaning, are they, like, once again, which pages are they going to? What is their dwell time? What is their bounce rate? In terms of the traffic acquisition or the actual conversions, like in terms of the traffic acquisition, are they coming direct? Meaning, are they typing xyzsecurity.com? Are they going to Google and they're coming to us via, a number of these various searches? Are they coming via some of the email programs? Are they coming via social media? Are they coming from referral partners? Perhaps maybe some of the partners that you have local in your communities, are they driving traffic to you? Things in this regard. So, and I'm just scratching the surface. In terms of Google Search Console, it's very different and very unique. Google Search Console is a complementary piece of the puzzle with that of Google Analytics that really helps and provides a few of the KPIs, the key performance indicators from the SEO standpoint. For example, it'll let us know as to which pages of our site are being indexed by that of Google, number one. Number two, what are all of the keywords that we're showing up for in Google over the last, technically it can be for over the last 12 months plus, once you get things activated. And it'll let you know over time with a specific keyword, is it on page 4? And is it consistently on page 4? Is it going down? Is it going up? How much traffic are you receiving from these specific keywords? Things in that regard. So those are things that are really, really important. As I talked about before, like SEMrush is an example. It's an all-in-one SEO tool that'll give you a lot of other data and KPIs and things in that regard. In terms of a few common mistakes to avoid, and remember, some of these things that are here and not even on this list, you don't want to be doing things the wrong way. You want to be doing things the right way, because even if we have a little bit of instant gratification, that we don't want to get in Google's naughty list. So what we don't want to be doing is overusing certain keywords, because those can harm rankings. We don't want to have duplicate content. In other words, we don't want to have pages that have the exact same content across our entire website. That's not going to be a good thing. We don't want to be ignoring mobile users. Remember, a lot of us, we all are walking around with like a computer, whether it's in our pockets or with us or what have you. We want to make sure we're not buying links from non-reputable groups. That can really ultimately get penalties from that of Google and the other search engines. In terms of time and resource management, we want to make sure that we're setting realistic goals, we're prioritizing efforts, and we're considering whether it makes sense to outsource or whether we want to have things all physically in-house, things in this regard. We want to make sure that we're continuously learning. Like, keep in mind, these things are changing I won't say every single day, but they're changing very, very, very frequently because, those algorithms change very frequently. We want to make sure that we are, staying up to date in terms of what are the latest and greatest, what are some of the trends and things that are happening. And that's going to hold true on blogs, on webinars, and other online courses. In terms of our action plan and the next steps, you want to make sure you audit your current SEO efforts. And as you go through that audit, you're going to be able to identify what are some of the priorities to address. And then ultimately, it's going to dictate as to where you allocate that of your time and resources accordingly. So I had promised this a few minutes ago. We've got an 18-page reference checklist / guide for that of SEO, for that of security companies. So if you'd like, you can use this QR code and you'll be able to instantly download this. And this is, once again, your checklist. For those of you that we presently work with, these are things that we work with already. But for any of the groups that we don't work with and you don't have a group that's helping you with SEO, like, you'll definitely want to download this. And this will give you a step-by-step approach. And as I mentioned, it's an 18-page resource guide / tech checklist. So, yes, you know what, Kaylia, we will send this to you directly to answer your question. Thank you very much, asking if there's a link to download outside of the QR code. And yeah, you all are very, very welcome. You are very welcome, Michelle. So I'm going to quickly go to, as we're wrapping things up, believe it or not, we're actually going to be on time today. In terms of the next one. So I am really, really excited to announce our next webinar that's going to take place about a month from now on December 11th. And my great friend, Audrey Pearson, what we're going to be talking about is the power play. Multiply your growth by aligning your sales and marketing efforts. And this is where, as I'd mentioned in the beginning of our conversation today, sales is really, really, is at the forefront of our industry. And sometimes marketing may take a little bit of a backseat. But when we have sales and marketing aligned, it can be a huge force multiplier to really help with your growth. And I am honored to be sharing the virtual stage with Audrey. So thank you, Audrey, for being available to help share some thought leadership and how we can take our sales and marketing to the next level. So you can register for that of the webinar by scanning that of the QR code. And with that said, do we have any questions that I can address for the next couple minutes? Okay, let's see here. So, okay, so someone asked a question, but he sent it just to host and panelists. Are you sending out a PDF of the meeting today? My audio went out. So if you can still hear me, I won't reference your name. We will be sending out a recording of today's session, number one. And then number two, if you would like slides, if you can send, and if you wouldn't mind Zoe adding my email address in here again. So if you would like the slides in addition to the recording, send an email to myself, and in the subject line, thank you, Isabella, appreciate that. In the subject line, if you can just put slides, we will make sure that we get you a PDF of the slides as well. And as soon as we have the recording available, we'll have this out to everyone too. So, okay. Question is, will I be giving a presentation in San Francisco next month? So I will not be this month at I will be at the California Alarm Association. And actually, as I'm thinking about this, our I didn't reference that. So I look forward to seeing each and every single one of you at, that will be at ISC East. And I just remembered CAA Winter Convention will take place before the next webinar. So any of you that will be at the CAA Winter Convention in San Francisco, I look forward to seeing each and every single one of you. And I think that we are in good shape unless anybody else has any final questions. We will once again send a replay for those of you that would like a copy of the for those of you that would like a copy of the slides, we can get those over to you. And then if you'd like, if for some reason you're having a challenge with a QR code, send an email as well and just say SEO guide in the subject line, and we will make sure that we get this over to you right away. But really, really appreciate everyone being available for today. And look forward to seeing you all at an event very, very soon. And look forward to seeing you also on December the 11th at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. And until next time, make it a great day. Thank you.